All right, everyone, welcome back into another Prize Picks video. Going to be touching on the top prop bets for this college football slate. Let's go ahead and get into it. And so starting out with the top prop bets that we currently have right now, we got Mumfield to get under 0.5 anytime touchdowns, pretty much, rush and receiving touchdowns. A decent bet, I would say. This is one where when you look at his past game log, he hasn't gotten the over in 3 straight games. And the matchup's not exactly a dominant matchup, but it's not exactly a matchup that you would really draw any conclusions to. So the matchup against Cal, their defense is a team that's given up 6 touchdowns in the receiving game. So as a whole, that's a little bit over, 1 per game. So not terrible, but this is very strong likelihood for the under to hit. Now, there's only one current sportsbook that has given us this line right now. That's ESPN Bet. ESPN Bet is heavily favoring the under for this one. So I did want to call that a little bit of an outlier there. That's only one, but still a very good prop bet that we have. And another one that we have, I just came out with the Prize Picks Flex Friday video, would be Love it to get under his rushing touchdowns. This has since dropped to 53% likelihood to hit. So, kind of interesting that it dropped a little bit, but still not a bad prop bet for us. He is someone that last week was actually popping up on this and actually cost us a 3-for-3 slip last week with an annoying late touchdown in that game against Auburn. Honestly, it never seemed like he was going to get the touchdown. That was very tilting there last week there. But another decent bet here again, 53% likely to hit. He's only gotten us over 2 out of 5 times thus far this season. Now the matchup against Mississippi State is a good matchup for opposing receivers. So I'm assuming that's why the line has went down. They have given up 8 passing or receiving touchdowns thus far this year, which is obviously a lot to opposing receivers. They're averaging 25.6 points given up. So there could be a lot of production given up. And we know touchdowns are fluky, but that's one where I probably would agree with the line dropping a little bit. And then I do just want to call some decent prop line differences that we are getting currently between the sports books and really how Prize Picks is valuing these. And so I want to call these out. These are all looking pretty decent. These two, the top two, Carson Beck for his passing yards. The average sportsbook line is giving us at 287 for him to get the over. Underdog does agree with the line. I always kind of like using Underdog when we're looking at Prize Picks lines as another data point to look at. So, don't exactly love that. And then we see Kobe Pace as well. Underdog is agreeing with Prize Picks and the projection data for that matter. And so the average sportsbook line of 57, maybe not the best, but then we look at something like Haynes King. This is one where I do like it a little bit better on Prize Picks because we look at it, guys. We can clearly see that this is the outlier data point. The projection data would have it at 235. Underdog would have it at 241.5. And the average sportsbook line would be having it at 240. Now, it's not a big edge, but 5 yards and 1 yard can end up being the difference between a prop bet hitting or not hitting. So, like to see that one. That's going to be one of my bets that I favor the most. And then just some other bets that are okay, but really not worth mentioning. What I want to get into are going to be some of these fantasy score prop bets that we have. Now, guys, anytime that a quarterback has their fantasy score line different from underdog, that's going to be a pretty big edge. That should really never happen. And I say that with quarterbacks because it's a 1-for-1 swap in terms of the calculation of it. Whereas with running backs and receivers, there's a little bit of a difference when we're looking at PPR scoring. And so when we look at this, we got Rocco Beck, where it's probably the best chance for us to be able to hit a middle. And so middle is when you bet both sides of it because, well, we can see underdog is currently a little bit too extreme with their line being at 20.15 and Prize Picks is a little bit too low given their line as well. Now, I know the projection data would have it set at 16.9. I get that. The average sportsbook line would have it set at 18.85. Definitely favoring the over there. So this is one where I probably agree the most with the data that we have here, where I do want to bet the over on Prize Picks, and we could even get away with betting the under on Underdog. If we pull up his game log here, we'll notice that he has been able to get this over. I know I'm using DraftKings here. It's a little bit different, but he has been able to get this over 4 out of the past 5 games. And he gets a matchup with West Virginia, who has given up an average of 20.2 fantasy points per game as well, a total of 11 passing touchdowns. And so you look at Rocco Beck, he is someone that has had in every single game, except for the game where he didn't get the over, a game that was a blowout, he's been able to get multiple passing touchdowns. So that's really what we're betting on him here for, is for him to get 2 passing touchdowns, obviously throw for a bunch of yards. And so that's probably my favorite bet that's popping up here right now for us to be able to bet the over on Prize Picks. But I don't hate the idea of betting the under as well. This is only a 3-point spread, and so it should stay close enough. And the reason why I like that is because it is a very high scoring game as well at 53 points. And again, guys, he has relatively crushed this over thus far this season, averaging 19.5. And so there is a good chance for the middle to hit there. And now we got Nico Emiliava. I think I almost got that there with the last name pronunciation. But this is another chance for a decent middling opportunity. Another situation where, underdog's a little bit too high, prize picks maybe a little bit too low. The average sportsbook line would be favored the over at about 53% likelihood for him to get over 20.5. And so that's pretty accurate with the prize picks line. And maybe you would want to favor the under a little bit more on underdog, but at the same time, going to be a good bet on both sides. The issue with Nico is the fact that he's only gotten this over 2 out of the past 5 games. Don't exactly love that. He gets a matchup with Florida that hasn't really been a great matchup for opposing quarterbacks. Florida's only given up about 16.5 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks, 6 touchdowns, passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. Nico is someone that does look pretty good rushing the football. We need to get a little bit more out of him, I think, with his legs if we're going to expect him to get this over. And since the competition has gotten more difficult, he has seemed to struggle a little bit more. So I'm probably favoring more the under on underdog here. But again, did want to point this out. It's a very good middling opportunity. And then Drew Aller here, the Penn State quarterback. Again, looking at the prop lines, guys. So the underdog line is set at 18.45. The prize picks line is set at 16.5. That should not be happening. The prop line being off by almost 2 is crazy. And this is what I like is the fact that the prize picks line is clearly the outlier. So if we're looking at maybe the biggest edges that we have, Rocco and Drew to get their over fantasy scores on prize picks, maybe bet Nico for under on underdog. But I'm going to be running these out both ways because we're just trying to hit some middles. And I think we clearly are getting some edges with these lines. Let's take a peek at Drew. Now, he is someone that is going to rush the football a decent amount. And he is someone, as we can see over his past 5 games, is averaging 21.2. He has gotten this over in every single game except for one against the Illini. Now, the concern is that USC has really been a pretty decent defense here, guys. Only giving up 3 passing touchdowns, only giving up 3 rushing touchdowns. And so I think that is the reason why we are seeing a big discrepancy between prize picks and underdog with their lines, because it is a difficult projection, but that's where we are getting the edge there. We might not know which side to fall on for this, but we do know that this is clearly an outlier and we should be trying to target that outlier in the data. But first, before we get into the bet of the day, do just want to give a quick thank you to today's video sponsor, myself, 9to5sports.com. If you guys want access to any of the tools that you saw in this video, head on over to 9to5sports.com, get access to them for just $10 a month. But when you use the promo code Keep Cashing when you first sign up, get 20% off. So it makes it $8 a month. You should hopefully be able to win that back in your first week. That's the whole reason why I price it that cheaply, is that you don't have to worry about recouping what you're putting in for your bets and for your membership. So check that out, guys. Great value. Looking at the bet of the day for this slate, again, do you really like these 2 opportunities right here with the fantasy score? I do favor the over a little bit more so on prize picks with these ones. I did mention I like these ones because we do have a little bit of a middling opportunity to bet the unders on underdog, and I will be doing that. I had done that already. And same thing with Nico here as well. I do have these listed in order of how much I like them. And so again, these 3 quarterbacks, I like that it's a 1-for-1 swap between how the calculation is made. Thus, we can clearly see that we are getting some edges here and some middling opportunities there. Then Haynes King, this is one where it probably will get bumped down to 241 or 240 where it should be. But right now, this is currently an edge. So I feel like I'd be doing a disservice to you guys if I did not include that on the bet slip of the day. And then Munfield to get under 0.5 rushing touchdowns and receiving touchdowns. Again, this is mostly being pulled in because one sportsbook is heavily favoring the other under right now. Once more lines get in there, that could adjust. Like the Lovett one that I mentioned earlier on in the video as well. That one slightly adjusted as more books gave their lines.